Okay, good afternoon. I'm going to try to talk a little bit about, this afternoon, I'm going to try to talk a little bit about the looking itself. Which is an area that I'm not very good at. It used to be, when I first started speaking about this in particular, it used to be that it seemed to me that when I say, look at you, that was more than a sufficient instruction and direction as to what you should look at and how you should approach it. My feeling was that, it's you I'm talking about. I'm not talking about a car or a star or anything weird. I'm talking about you. So I should not have to talk very much about what you have to do in order to look at you. It's you. You're very familiar with you. You have been with you for as long as you have been. You're never absent. You're never changing. You're always here, always the same. But that was kind of disingenuous, because when I think back to my own truly insane efforts to accomplish what I thought Ramana was suggesting, I see that I was a wild man swinging a machete in a forest and had no idea what to do, and was totally convinced that I would never ever see what Ramana saw. So lately I've been trying to be more helpful and more articulate and clear on what I mean when I say I want you to look at you. And I'm still not very good at it, but it's my experience in the time that I have been doing this work that if I keep trying and you keep responding, I get better. Practice makes perfect. So they say. So I'm going to try. I'm not the first one to make an attempt at this, of course. There have been those who have actually tried to communicate this over the years, over the millennia. Not very many, but a few, that have tried to communicate this practice, this work, over the thousands of years that we have been flaying about trying to find our way out. And they had not much more luck than I have had. The really ancient way of implementing self-inquiry, Atma-vichara, was a practice known as neti neti. And neti neti means not this, not this, not this, in which one searching for the first look, the first conscious recognition and notice of their actual nature, in looking inward, trying to look inward. Not as easy as it sounds. Pretty much everything is outward, except you. So, telling you to look inward is another useful instruction, because there is nothing inward but you. Everything else is outward. So in the very early days, back in the days of Shankara, when Atma-vichara was new and fresh, the implementation of neti neti was intended to be that you would make an earnest attempt to find something that was clearly you. And of course what you would find are objects that come and go within you, and you might be fooled for a moment, But the moment that you notice the fact that this is an object and therefore it cannot be you, you would say, not this. And this would go on, and the process would continue, not in an attempt to eliminate everything that is not you, since pretty much everything is not you in the sense that we're speaking of it here, but to kind of clear a path through the confusion and the foliage to the actual target of your search. Neti Neti later, of course, became a kind of mindless mantra, japa thing where people, Ramana's mother, would go through the days, everything she saw, she would say, not this, not this, not that, not the feet, not the toes, not the eyes, not the product of the body, not, and so forth and so on. And it's very much prone to becoming that kind of mindless mantra practice. So I don't recommend it, but it's certainly something that I did without even knowing that that's what I was doing. Ramana had always said that Ramana concentrated his attention when he's asking us to look. He concentrates his attention on bringing our attention to what he called the I thought. Now, that's a whole other story, and we're probably not going to get into that now. But the I thought, which is the feeling of I that rises and falls and rises and falls throughout the life, throughout the day. And Ramana would recommend that since, in his estimation, it was the universal experience of human beings, if when asked to point to themselves, they would invariably point to this place on the to the left of the sternum, on the chest. God knows why, or even whether that's the case, that people automatically point to that. But Ramana felt that this point here was a useful place to focus attention on in trying to see the arising of the I thought. Now, the arising of the I thought is not what we're actually looking for, but if you're looking for the arising of the I thought, you will be looking at the place where you are, because it is from there that this phenomenon that Ramana calls the I thought arises. So he'd advise us to look there, to keep our attention there, to focus there. And of course I did that too, endlessly, again and again, over and over and over. I didn't find those instructions to be very helpful. They did produce some interesting experiences that I won't bother to recount now, but I didn't find those things to be very helpful at all. I don't know of anyone else. I mean, Nisargadatta, of course, talked about holding on to the I am, which is what his teacher had told him to do just prior to dropping dead, and was all he had to go on. But I'm not sure what the I am is either. Like given as my spiritual bent, I invested it with much more potency and importance than the thing really deserves. It's just the feeling of being here. I am. It's a phenomenal arising. And other than that, pretty much nobody talks about it. And I can see why nobody talks about it, since it is really, really difficult to say anything useful about the work of bringing attention to the actual reality of your own nature. And even as I say it again, I say to myself, but it's you. I mean, how hard can that be? It's you. It's what you would call me. How hard can that be? How can it be so difficult that it requires instruction in the first place? I can tell you that this reality is always here. It's you. I say it because of the limitations of language, but it's you. It's always here, never absent, never changes, never missing, always unmoving. And that you might think of it usefully as, this might be useful, as the white paper on which black type is printed. We read a book or a letter or anything at all that's on white paper, and we never notice the white paper. We pay very close attention to the type, to the letters, to the words, the sentences, the punctuation and so forth, following along the story that they're telling. If we are very good at reading, we don't have to focus very much, but our focus is on the print, on the words, the punctuation, the type, the black ink. And despite that, despite the fact that we never give a second glance to the white background, we are obviously always aware of the white background. It's never missing. It's never absent. It's always directly in our vision. So even though we don't notice it, it's here, and we know it. In the same way, or in a similar way, you are here, but never noticed. You know what it feels like to be you, but you never notice that feeling because it's the background of the more interesting stuff, which is the story. The triumphs, the defeats, the desires, the aversions, the thoughts, the understandings, the history, the memory, the expectations, the future. All that stuff is much more interesting, and there's no purpose whatsoever to the background other than to provide a background for the story, for the interesting stuff, the stuff that needs to be fixed, the stuff that needs to be kept, the stuff that needs to be gotten rid of. But there you are. There would be no story without the background, just as there would be no written word without the white paper or some contrasting color paper. Thinking of it in that way might be useful to you. You might, in that way, come to see the background of everything happening. Now, obviously, if that's the case, also, if you are the background of everything whatsoever that occurs, then anything you might look at with sufficient focus and attention, if it vanishes, you'll be left looking at you. You can't avoid it. If you look at a phenomenon and it disappears, what remains is you. If you know that that's happening, I mean, we're all familiar with the ability we have to make sensory experiences and so forth disappear under our gaze. This is a common spiritual thing and even a common therapeutic practice. For example, if there's the feeling of confusion and distress and anger or whatever, those kind of negative feelings, if you, instead of, we are advised and with good reason, we are advised that what we should do is accept it. Now, I don't go in for all that stuff so much, but we are advised that we should accept it and that we should cease our resistance to it and fully experience it without resistance at all. And what we find is that if we do that, that particular sensational arising will vanish. It will. It just does. Nothing can stand the determined attention by you. It is nothing to begin with, and under your gaze, its nothingness is revealed. and it vanishes. Any negative experience can be dissipated temporarily by doing what the therapist suggests that we do, which is to receive it without resistance. Or in this case, since I have no idea how to end resistance to things, but I do have an idea how to focus attention. In this case, if you focus attention on anything whatsoever, any phenomenal, sensational arising, that's not, I don't know if it works with physical pain so much. It does to a certain extent. I'm not sure to what extent, but certainly psychological distress. If you focus on it, it'll disappear. And if you do so with the intention of seeing it disappear and being left with your eyes, your gaze, resting on the reality of your nature, then you will notice the reality of your nature in the moment of its disappearance. And you will, at some point, notice that it is you. It won't be long. Won't take you won't be, oh my God, look at this is all so wonderful. But you'll get a passing notice. Oh, that's me. I see, that's me. So that's another way to go about it. Anything you look at, if it vanishes under your gaze, you will be left looking at your actual nature for just a second, no matter whether you know you are or not. But knowing you are seems to be the trick. Getting the recognition seems to be the trick that carries this forward to success. Another thing is what I have spoken about often and what I spoke about last night, and I'll bring it up again today. Another thing that has consistently produced in people the momentary recognition of the reality of their nature is the recalling of preferably an experience from childhood when there's no, there's no direct chain from you to that experience. It's just a memory that appears, a recollection from childhood. And the possibility of seeing directly what it felt like to be you at that moment and seeing that that is exactly the same as you now. I mean, not like it's just stayed the same. It is the same. The same. It's the same, by the way, with this business of the I thought. The purpose of and I may have said it, but I'm going to be sure I did. The purpose of looking for the arising of the I thought is because when you see the arising of the I thought, as it disappears, you're looking at you, not the I thought. Whatever that is, it's beside the point. It's another thing that's appeared and will disappear. Another thing to be aware of and conscious of that may be helpful in the effort to do this is that, like we were talking this morning, I forget who I was talking with, but we were talking this morning about how there seems to be nothing there. The fact is that what you are, we're talking about the fact that I'm not asking you to see anything. I'm asking you to look. I'm not asking you to see or understand or come to get the essence of anything. Just to look. And the reason that I don't ask you to see anything is because, in fact, what you actually see as you recognize with a kind of a little thrill, when you recognize that this is you, what you actually see is absence, not anything in particular, the absence. But not, and it is that thing about your nature that it's most salient characteristic is absence rather than the presence of something in particular, that of course has given rise to our love affair with the idea of emptiness and the void and sunyata and all of these teachings. It's not because there's nothing there, it's you there. How can you be nothing? It's you. But it's because what you can see is the absence of phenomena, the absence of elements of the parade of phenomena. And it looks like nothing. You look like, well, nothing. Nothing. Doesn't mean you are nothing. It means you look like nothing. So that might be helpful too. It's natural, and especially, and I talk a lot about especially in the spiritual context, especially in spiritual teaching, especially burdened by the weight of spiritual understanding and so forth. But it's not just spiritual understanding that burdens us and that weighs down the freshness of our ability to try something different, something new. It's all understanding. It's the whole history of the understanding that has built up and accrued within you about what you are and what your place in the world is and what you should be and what needs to be and how I need to be seen and if I am something, then what that would feel like and what it would feel like if I am nothing. And there's this whole platform of understanding that we stand on as we enter into this, which does us no good whatsoever in this effort. None. It is a snare and a delusion, as is said in another spiritual teaching. A snare and a delusion. And if you see, therefore, that what I am asking you to do is not to see what you are, you see, seeing what you are is the arising of understanding. So what I'm asking you to do is not to see what you are, but just to look. And you will see nothing. And that's okay. Really. The purpose and the effect and the efficacy of this work has nothing whatsoever to do with a momentary recognition or understanding or gratification or anything in kind. It is, to go back to a metaphor that I used to use and somehow fell away, it's like taking medicine. It's like taking medicine. It's not like gaining a new understanding or gaining enlightenment or anything of the kind. It's like taking medicine. If you get sick, if you have some kind of infection, and you go to the doctor, you have no idea, none. I mean, you may have ideas, but I guarantee they fall short of the reality. You have no idea of what the actual, what is actually happening that makes you feel sick. There's a war raging within the body, a war between different elements and components and creatures and so forth within the body. The body's defenses are awake and alive, and it's mostly the body's defenses that make you feel bad. And the enemy microbe or whatever it is fighting for its life and fighting to stay alive. But all this is happening, and it's a huge, vast canvas of drama and intrigue and things going on and things not going on. And of course, you don't have any idea of all that. All you know is that you're sick. You don't feel good. You have a fever. So you go to the doctor, and the doctor says, I'm going to give you these antibiotics, and I want you to take these antibiotics just exactly according to instructions. I want you to take them 3 times a day for 14 days or whatever it is, and I want you to keep taking them even if you begin to feel better. And you don't say, well, explain to me just exactly what this chemical compound is going to do in detail within this war that's raging in my body to to defeat the enemy, to snuff out the invader, explain to me the exact, in detail, the exact mechanics and chemical stuff that's happening and all of that, you just say, oh, okay. And you go to the pharmacy, you get the pills, and you start taking them 3 times a day for as long as the doctor told you to. And as you take them, likewise, you have no idea what effect that chemical is having, what the actual detailed effect of it is going on within you. You may notice some changes and so forth, and after a little while, you'll start feeling better. You don't know why that is. You don't know how that happened. You just take the medicine. It's the same with this work. It is barely possible to speak to you and to present you with a comprehensive and coherent idea as to what the problem is. Although I try to do that, and we're probably better at that than we are explaining what the problem is when you get sick with some virus or something. But it's very difficult to explain to you in detail what the problem is, from whence it comes, and why it causes the havoc that it does cause. It's very difficult to explain to anyone, you, me, or anybody else, exactly why it should be that taking this particular medicine, the medicine of striving with all of your heart to look at yourself, should work. And in the aftermath of taking the medicine, or in the course of taking the medicine, it is damn near impossible to explain to you what to expect, what it will feel like as the problem begins to subside, and what the cause of all of that is. What in detail is occurring that makes you feel better. So, this that I ask is like taking medicine. Now, there are some circles and some contexts in which me saying to you, just do as I say. Don't bother with it. Just do as I say, and everything will come out right, would be arrogant, thoughtless, inconsiderate, and not very sensitive, and might even be dangerous. You know, we have a lot of examples in the history of spiritual practice of people coming and winning us over with sweet tongue and a good line of talk and talking us into doing really horrible things. But in this case, you see, well, all that I'm asking you to do, I'm not asking you to go drink the Kool-Aid. I'm not asking you to give up your firstborn child. I'm not asking you even to give money for this. All I'm asking you to do, and I'm not asking you to do any practice or instill any trance or come to any state whatsoever. All I'm asking you to do is look at yourself. That can't be bad, really. That can't be a bad thing. It can't hurt you. There's nothing about what I say that can possibly hurt you, and this is self-evident. So try. I don't know what else to tell you as to pointers as to how to go about doing this. I think I've pretty much exhausted my repertoire with that. I promise you that I'll continue working on this as time goes on. And who knows, maybe I'll come up with just the right thing. Maybe there is some just perfect thought or posture or something, that I just don't know because, I just fought my way to it. But I'll keep trying. And in the meantime, I beg you, you keep trying. You keep trying to look at you. And I beg of you to do that because I am absolutely certain, in a way that I am certain of almost nothing except my existence. I am absolutely certain that if you try, you will succeed. It's just that simple. If you try with all your heart you will succeed. And everything will come out right in the end, which is what Ramana used to say. And when I read of Ramana saying that, it used to really piss me off. But it's true. If you do this, everything will come out right in the end. Look at you. I don't know how to say it any more clearly than that. Look at you. Every chance you get. If you forget to do it for a month, it's okay. Don't worry about that. If you are afflicted with all kinds of contrary thoughts and just captured by some negativity or anything, some trance state or anything, don't worry about it. All of that is beside the point. It doesn't count. The only thing that counts is when you look. The rest of it is all the play of the parade of phenomena about which you have nothing to say. When you look, that's you, doing it for yourself. We have and the other thing I want to say in the vein of this practical discussion, if I can remember what I was about to say. Yeah, whatever. If you look, it'll come out right. If you look, you cannot be denied. That's a fact. And whatever it was I was about to say will come back. It always does. And I'll interrupt whatever's happening. Say, oh, that's what it was. So, anybody else want to talk? Anybody want to come up? Helen? Good to see you.
Good to see you too. You're absolutely right.
I get that. You'd be surprised how much I get that.
I've been with John for 2 years now. I struggled a lot.
You did. That's right.
I did. At the beginning, I have absolutely no idea what you are talking about. But I trust you. So just to keep look. I struggle a lot.
I know.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I just follows your instruction. Seems so murky. Just to look at yourself. What am I looking at? But I looked at anyway, despite the struggle and the headache and everything else. And looking back, I realized that I have been seeing it quite a bit. So even I described it, and I said, I don't know what I was looking, but the whole thing. And you said, that is you. I said, what was me? You know, I don't know what I was seeing, just the whole thing. But then, one day, all of a sudden, I realized what I was seeing. I said, wow, this is so interesting. It's completely formless. There's no color and no shape and no smell. But undeniably, here, And it is here.
That's right. It's you.
And everybody in this room see that right here, right now, and no exception. When I look at it, it's like ultimate puzzle, mystery. I don't know what it is. I have no idea what it is.
And is that a problem?
There's no problem.
No.
And it's always there, and never not here.
That's right.
Never, ever. But despite that, I still struggle. And I can starting to see what am I struggling, why am I struggling, even though it doesn't matter. Is I conceptualized it and starting chasing the imaginary goal. As you know, since this body and mind live like a human life, is everything's conceptualized. You see, whatever you see is, this is John, and this is the floor, and I'm Helen, and everything has a name. But they are not. They are not.
They are not. No.
None of
that's
our.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, and we conflate the name with the phenomenon.
Yeah.
As if the
Right.
name were the phenomenon.
Correct. Yeah. That's what happened. But I'm constantly slip into that conceptualization when I just simply see this and starting to describing it, and I want to prolonging it, and it became a ghost. I'm chasing the imaginary thing, non-existing thing.
That's right, of course.
That's how am I struggling. I can see
right.
that pattern more and more clearly, but still I'm struggling, still struggling. But this is just the process I have to go through, even though, despite that, it's still here, right now. I remember one of a master said, he described the whole process. He said, we are like climbing a glass mountain with all the oil, grease on the glass. And you're struggling, you're trying to climbing the mountain, and you do whatever you can. And then you're completely exhausted, and you collapsed. And then you realize you're on top of the mountain. And also, there's one more thing. Seems like the things are upside down. We thought that the understanding helps, but actually, it might help in a certain extent, maybe at the real beginning. But actually, it's when you experienced it, and you know, oh, that's what they say.
That's it.
But
Just
still,
like
yeah,
that.
that's it.
That's it.
And even that doesn't help.
No, that doesn't help either.
It doesn't help at all.
No, that's right. That's right. This is authentic. This is the truth.
That's why you hear people, maybe spiritual people, they're saying something so beautiful and you're so moved, but they are nothing. And if you really grasping what they said and you try to follow it, even though that's peaceful, compassion, do good deeds, they are, maybe the words I don't know if I say correct, is a hindrance. What's that?
There
say
are
like?
hindrances.
Yeah, if you believe the true value and you are trapped, they are, this is,
Yes.
There's no word to it.
No, none whatsoever.
Right.
The worth is in the natural unfolding of human life, not in the understanding of that unfolding, not in the attempts to reform it or transcend it or transform it, but in the actual uncomplicated unfolding of the human life. That's where worth is to be found, nowhere else.
Yeah.
And it's not the worth that that arises from the capacity of the human consciousness to understand, or to name, or to comprehend, or anything like that. It is just as the looking has nothing to do with seeing anything, the worth of a human life has nothing to do with the particulars of its characteristics and its shape. It's just the unfolding itself, the natural, uncomplicated, uncontaminated unfolding of human life is the worth.
That's why Buddha says he's been teaching, he taught for 49 years. But at the end, he says, I never said a word.
Yeah.
Because it can't be said.
Yeah.
There's no word to it. The word doesn't apply.
Right.
Period.
There's no, and you see the distinction here that can be made, it can be seen, the discernment can be applied to this, is that, for example, as we sit in this room, and I speak about the cause of human suffering and the importance of seeing its presence and the solution to the problem and why that's the solution to the problem, none of that means a thing. Nothing. It is perhaps useful momentarily if it causes those with whom I am speaking to embark on this on their own and discover for themselves the wonder of a human life, the actuality of their nature, not to understand it, but just to happen upon it, to notice it. But all those stories that I tell and all those, I'm just kind of wrestling. I am trying to do kind of judo here. What I'm saying is not a lie, and it is actually what I see to be the case insofar as I can speak about it as if there were something to be spoken about. But it's more judo than it is worth. There's no worth to it. The only worth to it is in its fruit. Its fruit is when somebody somehow listens and hears something I say, and as a consequence does what you did. And just try. Do it yourself. And whereas that is where the worth lies, is in the effect that the Buddha may have had on those that he spoke with in causing them to turn and rely upon themselves to accomplish the eradication of the problem. That's the worth of the Buddha's work, not anything he said, not any of the stories he told.
Yeah, interesting enough, one time a person said, just look at the time. And it never occurred to me, and as I look at the time, and there it is. You look at the time, what you see is that. So it occurs to me, everything is the doorway.
Everything is, that's right.
Even the confusion and everything. If you look, just like what you said a moment ago about
anything you look
when
at
you
will
look
vanish.
at it, it vanished. That's the doorway.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Even you look at your hand. One time I tried. I was sitting in front of a computer and I look at the keyboard. And all I see is that.
That's right.
The keyboard doesn't exist.
No.
No.
Not really.
Not really.
Not in the same way you do.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
The keyboard is much more conditional.
Right.
It depends for its existence on conditions, context.
And even the thinking, if you're caught up in thinking and you just look at what you were experiencing. You did experiencing it right there. But when you're looking into it, it is that.
Yes,
it opens up.
It goes. It just goes. And the thing is, right, and this is what I was talking about this that you're pointing out, is that particular power, the power of human attention actually to dissolve phenomena, because that's what we're talking about. The power of human attention to dissolve phenomena is, for the most part, used for the most trivial purposes. And Not that it's not useful to do so to provide people with some relief and some comfort, but that's so small an outcome of what can actually happen. And the thing that's plain to me is that the difference is, like if I am a therapist of some kind, a spiritual therapist, and you come to me and you complain of fear and agitation and so forth, and I advise you to sit still, and just close your eyes, relax, and see if you cannot fully experience the sensation that you're calling fear and agitation. And then as you do that, I know for a fact that that will just kind of disappear, and you'll feel better, and you'll go on about your business until it strikes again. But the difference is, and the fact is that when it disappeared, you actually were left looking at nothing but you. Nothing left but you. But if you haven't had it suggested to you that that's what you're seeing, it doesn't have the same effect as when you know, oh, that's what I've been looking for. That. Not the vanishing of the negative experience, but what remains when every experience is gone. And there's something about the conscious recognition of what has occurred that makes all the difference. You know, it's like I was speaking with Julia last night about the fact that, and in her case as well as in mine, like when I met Gangaji, I was primed for it. I was very resistant to her and very angry about her taking people away from good, solid Buddhist practice, and so telling them stupid stuff like they don't have to do anything and all of that. So I was very resistant to her, and I actually was an opponent of hers among the people in the prison there that were seeing her. And so I was primed, right? I already had an emotional and psychological force in my relationship with her before I met her. And then when I met her, it was the most amazing thing. Everything stopped. All of that business just stopped. All the thoughts and the strategies and the ideas and the memory and the expectations and projection stopped. Everything stopped. And of course what happened was that I was left standing there, staring directly at me. But I didn't know that. I had no idea that that was the case. It was so powerful an experience that it took me off on a year of enlightenment and an incredible romantic involvement with enlightenment, with awakening, with what I at that time called self-realization and non-dual consciousness and so forth. But if I had known that that's what had happened, I suspect that the outcome would have been much different. It would not have been a year of kind of wallowing in, the wonder of it. You know, I saw a dead bird once while I was enlightened. It used to be I was enlightened, you see. And I saw a dead bird, a little dead baby bird once out on a part of the compound. And the dead baby bird was lying there on a concrete bench. Had no feathers, and just his little stubby wings, and it was lying with its chin on the concrete, so that it seemed to be staring ahead, right? Resting its head and staring ahead. And I looked at that bird, and I had such a magnificent mystical experience in looking at that bird that I came to say that that bird was one of my most powerful teachers, that little dead baby bird. So all of that happened in that year of enlightenment, and of course it was all just, I think it was a kind of wish fulfillment. You know, I mean, literally a kind of wish fulfillment. Like all the things that I wanted to happen came to pass. Everything I wanted to be came to pass. And left me empty-handed with sand when it departed. So the point I'm trying to make here is that it is quite possible to get a look at yourself, not knowing that what you're looking at is yourself, convinced that what you're looking at is like, oh, I don't know, true self or awareness or, something like that, and miss it, and get such a big hit out of it that it takes you a very long time to recover from the big hit. So seems to me a critical component of the practical nature of this work is that you start out knowing that what you're looking for is you. And when you finally happen upon it, it's not like, oh my God, there it is, true love. It is the love of the universe, or it is awareness, or it is silence, or it is, something like that. It's me. So that conscious component is seems to be a critical component in accomplishing what can be accomplished in this work.
I remember one time when I had some experience, the self doesn't exist, whatever, and I heard a voice. I never heard of this before, never read this before because I was so new to this whole thing, and then a voice said, "It is nothing but everything." When I was walking, and all of a sudden, self disappeared, just a bit, and I was thinking, hey, I had some experience.
Yeah.
And I told you about it. And you were pounding at me. I said, that is past. That is what you experienced before, not now. Look at what right here, right now.
That's right.
Yeah. And also I said I was craving for the big experience, big opening, and aha.
Yeah.
And you told me that's beside the point. I said, why you say that? But this is so ordinary. Really, no big deal.
No big deal.
No big deal whatsoever.
None whatsoever. And it's not even when all of the stuff goes and you're left in a natural state and as you are, like just free of fear and free of the entanglement with all of the drama and so forth. But glad to be alive and glad to be human. It's not even the passing of the misery is not a big deal. It's not like, oh, let's get out the trumpets and the champagne and celebrate this. It's just, oh, okay, I'm here. The misery's gone. Nothing is a big deal except what we make of it. And it's the making of things is a big deal, is a big part of our investment in being miserable. Making of things is a big deal. Nothing's a big deal. Things come and go. That's the truth of it. The only thing that doesn't come and go is you. Everything else comes and goes. Enlightenment comes and goes. Endarkenment comes and goes. Misery comes and goes. Confusion comes and goes. And you don't even, it's not even a big deal. Like for all I know, I don't remember really, but for all I know, sometime earlier today, I was miserable. I don't really suspect that that's the case, but it's possible that there was a time, sometime today, when I was miserable, but it wasn't important. If it was the case, it wasn't important enough for me to commit it to memory. Because that's what we do. When we're miserable, we work very hard to make sure that we remember this, so that we won't make the mistake of thinking sometime in the future that we were happy. Yes, and this is the confirmation, is when you can say with such certainty that it's not a big deal. It really isn't. It's your natural state. It's not alien. It's not new. It's not anything.
It's the fundamental stuff, and then it's natural. It's come with everybody.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And in my view, I mean, I don't know whether I'm saying this because I believe it to be true or because it seems like a reasonable hypothesis. Actually, it might even be a theory, even more than a hypothesis. Don't remember what it was.
No big deal. Thank you, John.
Okay, who else? Who's next? Mary. Hi.
Hi,
You're looking good.
thank you. I had a couple of comments and then I had a few questions, and if you
Okay.
could give yes or no answers, that would be good.
I'll do my best.
Okay.
I'm not very good with yes or no.
I know. Well, the first comment was that I think your next book should be entitled "I Used to Be Enlightened." I think that would be really a big seller. The questions are more about, since you brought up the topic about what you mean by looking. I mean, I'm not really a beginner at this, but you said fresh start, so I'm all for that.
Excellent.
Yeah. And so, you know, I look when I wake up in the night or whatever, I look and I don't see anything, but there's a sort of a moment of I'm startled for a minute when I look, and then I don't know, whatever. But, the yes or no questions were things like, some people have suggested paying attention to the space between thoughts, for example, and you were just saying that like anything can be a doorway. And it seems kind of similar when I do that. It's just
You know, it's funny you should say that, because among the things that I was going to mention as pointers was looking at the space between
oh, good.
thoughts.
So I just came up to help you out.
You know, yeah. And you know, the thing is, right, that looking at the space between thoughts, this is a practice that is widespread and is spoken about often, but there's no mention of what it is you see when you look at the space between thoughts.
That's right.
And it's so plain to me that conscious recognition of what it is that you're seeing is a critical component.
So that's right. That's what
Right.
you've been saying. So
That's right.
and you're right. I haven't heard that said.
Right.
Just to pay attention there, which is it's a little bit startling as well,
Yes, it
because we
is.
don't put attention there.
Yes, it is. It's because you are actually looking at you in that space between thoughts. But it's important that you, at least, it's not so important, I think, that it be in the forefront of your consciousness, but you have to know at some level that what you're seeing is you, and not
Right, that's
just
what you're
some,
saying is important. So
That's right.
yeah, so that's different. I mean, that's a
Right.
bit of a different
But
feeling.
the space between thoughts is one of the things I was going to mention. So
okay,
thank you.
because it looks the same.
Yes,
Whatever.
that's right.
Or between sounds, you know, like music, between
Right.
the space
The
between
blank space between
it's like the
events.
white page or whatever, I
Right.
guess.
It's all thought.
It's what?
All thought.
What is?
Music, sounds, thought, you know, discursive thoughts, all
Yeah,
thought.
everything. Okay. So then what about, so you're looking, and then you don't see anything really, but there's still this awareness that you're looking and not seeing anything. So what's that? Is that me too? You know what I mean? It's
Yes,
sort
it
of,
is. Of course
it's
it is.
kind of
It's
like
what I
the-
was saying earlier.
Yeah.
What you see is not something,
Right.
but the absence of things.
So when you're asking that question, sometimes I ask, you know, well, who's looking? Is that, you know, who's looking or
Well,
like,
I wouldn't want to dispute Ramana, but it's not as good. It's a little, it can work. I mean, I did it myself. I tried to find, and the reason that it can work, and this is important to see, I think, the reason who can work, I don't think what works, like what am I? The reason who can work, who am I? For whom is this thought? Who hears this? Who sees this? And so forth, is because of the absolutely What's the word I'm looking for? I want to say blasphemous, but that's not the word I mean. But they're absolutely counter spiritual understanding reality that you feel much more like a who than a what.
Yeah.
That there is a personness to your presence that is unlike anything else. It's not something that can be seen, but it's recognizable. You feel like you. You don't feel like that.
Yeah, it feels different to ask who
Yeah.
than
So
what.
who-
What sort of invites a bunch of words
of
and
abstract
explanations or
stuff,
something.
yeah.
Yeah.
The key to all of this, so far as I can see, is the seriousness of your intent. Right? I mean, if you're casual with such things as who am I, then the results will not be as expected. You know, like if you're like who am I, and you take that as a very superficial question, then your results won't be what I promise they will be. But if you're serious in your intent, you're really serious about getting the feel of who you are, of the who-ness of you, not your characteristics and your traits and your behaviors and persona and stuff, but actually who. Who. That's why I use you. When I say look at you, I don't say look at awareness or anything like that. It's you. Because it's personal. It really is. It's personal.
And you see that as kind of crucial somehow, or important.
I do. And I have seen also that, as I've said, when Ramana first started speaking about what had happened to him, what he described that which remained to be was the force of personality, which, when I first read that, seemed to me to be, what? What? Person? Please. But it is crucial. It is actually the case. And especially among the spiritually sophisticated, because there's such a temptation to veer off into abstraction and concept and all of that. And with who, it's not so much. Like that, pretty much close to the bone. It's you. It's not.
Right, and it feels very close. So,
That's right.
So my last yes or no question is, so you hear a lot about, the be here now or the power of now, being here, the feeling of being here.
No.
Thank you. And I think my last comment, or two last comments. One's, you used to say, if you just look, I promise you can't do it wrong and all this stuff. And now you say things like, if you just look with all your heart. So the worried part of me is going, might not be all my heart or so I feel a little
See what I mean?
cheated because
See what I mean?
2 years ago. No.
If you look, and we've been speaking to each other for a while now, and the change in you is evident. It really is. It's obvious. And sometimes it's more obvious from the outside than it is from the inside, because this change is kind of gradual and it accretes. It's not like, big jumps and so forth. So it's like the frog in the boiling water, you just get used to feeling better than you did, and it's no big deal. You see, it's no big deal. But when you're with a person who has been in this work, and you see them, like I don't see you every day. I see you once a month if I'm lucky, or less than that. But I can see the change. I can see the demeanor and the countenance and how it's changed over the time that you've been doing this work. So I wouldn't concern myself with the idea that you're doing it wrong.
So that you're telling me that at least once I've done it right, and that means it's all
That's
taken
right.
care of. Yeah.
That's right.
I won't worry
Just
anymore.
once. That's all it takes.
Okay.
The rest of it is out of your hands.
Good, because I have a lot on my hands.
Yes, I know.
Yeah. And my last comment, which I've said before, but I haven't heard you say it lately, but you said it really early on when I first met you, was that this is not a state. It's not a state that we're looking for. And
That's right.
I still find that completely helpful. When I remind myself it's not, because when you think it is a state, or there's just a little bit of struggling to have a state.
Yes, right.
This is not a state.
It's not a state. You are not a state. You are not a state. You are you. States come and go in you. You are not a state.
Yeah. So I still find
And it's natural to be looking for a state. This is part of this whole complex of human misunderstanding of their own nature, our own nature. The whole complex of that includes the fact that, it is pretty much contained within our misunderstanding as to where the problem lies and what the solution will look like. We think the problem lies in the way we are, in our life, in our thoughts, in our persona, in the way our relationships and so forth, in the circumstances that we find ourselves in. We think that's where the problem lies, and we think that that's where the solution lies also. That the solution is some changing of your mind, some transformation and transcendence of your ordinary humanness, and therefore when that doesn't, that's what we look for, and we strive to we strain and grunt and groan trying to evoke those states, and all the time here you are, unchanged by any of it, unhelped or hurt by any state, still the same, always the same, and it's just it's an unnecessary distraction. Okay?
Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's good to see you, Mary. I repeat, the fact that I have said in the past that if you just try, you cannot fail, and that I say now, you should try with all your heart, or you should try in this way, or you might try this or that or the other thing, they don't contradict each other. If you try, if you do this, you will succeed. And then I can add the point, if you really try very hard to do it, you will succeed. I know that to be the fact because I really tried very hard. I think there are people that I've been with in the years of doing this work that haven't tried very hard at all, and it just all fell apart and everything was wonderful. But all I can tell you is what I know from my own experience, my own direct experience. And I tell you, if you try this with all your heart, I guarantee you that it'll turn out right. I suspect that if you try it at all, the critical element is, so far as I can tell, is being conscious of what it is you're trying to do. Not seeing it as an adjunct or an addition to something else you're doing, not seeing it as part of some other realm of human activity like spiritual practice or getting drunk or any of the other things we do as human beings, but seeing it as something separate and distinct from all our other activities, and seeing that what it is you're trying to do is to get a look at yourself. That seems to be what makes the difference. The rest of it is just me trying to be helpful with yes or no answers. Okay, anybody else? Yes. Mo.
Yes.
Hi, Mo.
Hi, John. Maybe I'll start by saying I've been listening to your podcasts for, I'm not good at timelines, maybe about 8 months. And I haven't really been understanding or knowing what you're talking about, but I've been doing something. And I am definitely seeing things subtracting.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
the key. Yeah, that's it.
So that's been,
Things just don't show up.
yeah. And then as things get subtracted and I listen again, it seems to make more sense.
Yes, right.
So that's been happening. So I wanted to just ask, I think, two things. Recently, there's been a slight shift, and I want to just check in, and I'm not moving away from, moving away from what you're asking.
Okay.
So recently, whenever it occurs to me, look at myself, something felt different where I heard, whenever it occurs to me, be myself.
Yes, that's a distraction.
Is it?
That's a displacement. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, just think about it. The things that I talk about are really quite plain. And if you think about it, any effort on your part to be yourself has to be really dumb. Because how could you possibly be anything but yourself?
Well, that's interesting because the next thing that happened was I thought, whenever it occurs to me, I am myself. The bee left.
Whether it occurs to you or not,
yeah,
you are yourself.
right.
You are the same as you have always been. You've never changed. Never. You've never been touched by anything.
Okay,
Ever.
so I think what's happening is whenever it occurs to me, look at myself, I can't look at myself because I am myself. Like, I don't even get to the end of look at myself.
Here's what happens. And I can't tell, right? Again, the timeline of these things is entirely mysterious to me. I can't make any sense of it whatsoever. I can't form any basis for prediction or understanding. But here's what absolutely does happen. And this is something that is, and all of this that takes place, once it begins to take place, if you have a spiritual background, you begin to see that it is entirely consistent with what was actually being said in the spiritual teachings, although not consistent with what you heard and thought it was being said. Right? And it's the same with this that I'm going to mention, and I have before. And that is that as you proceed, as you continue to do this, it has always been the case that you are aware of your presence here. By which I don't mean like, if you think about it, you know you're here. I mean, whether you think about it or think you're not here even, you are still in that aware of your presence here. That's always the case. We lose sight of it because we are busy trying to be what we really are by projecting our ideas about what we should be onto the persona and the shape of the life and so forth. But you're always aware, no matter what's going on. You have always been fully aware and conscious of your presence here. You just don't know what that feels like. Okay. Now, once you begin this process of deliberately trying to bring this energy of searching for a solution to you, rather than in the parade of phenomena, once this begins, there will come a point when the deliberateness of it just kind of vanishes, because you now not only are conscious of your presence here, but you recognize it. Not necessarily in a way that says, where you're always saying, oh, right, that's me, but you know now, and you recognize what it is that you've been seeing all along. Now, whether that's the case with you, I can't tell, but it's possible.
That's what it feels like might be starting to move in.
Yeah.
Or creep in. Not in the be me, because you're right, that felt something didn't feel right.
Yeah.
But whenever it occurs to me, and then I just notice I am me. Yeah.
That's it.
Okay.
That's it. And the business about being me is just a business about trying to make what you see, what you think you should be.
Yes.
It's just old stuff.
Okay.
It doesn't have any meaning. It can't hurt you or help you.
Okay.
It's beside the point.
That's helpful. And the other one, I don't really have a question formed, but maybe you'll just talk to it and then the question will become clear. What I was trying to ask is, the word experience is starting to come up, and I don't really know what it means.
Well, I don't know what experience means either, but I use it too, and I tend to shy away from it because the experience of reality is, although it certainly is an experience, it is really the noticing of what it feels like to be you is certainly an experience. It is, but it is so subtle and so not like anything else that goes by the name of experience. For example, sometimes I use the word sensation, and that too has the same difficulty with it. Sensation carries this sense of something much more tangible than the sensation of you. And experience too carries the sense of something much more tangible and solid than the experience of this you-ness of you.
That's really helpful because I'm feeling that it's not, the word experience doesn't fit.
Not quite.
Okay.
Right. It just doesn't quite, it's just
No,
a little
it's
too
solid.
solid.
It's too busy or something
Yeah.
for the subtlety of.
That's right.
Okay.
But on the other hand, it's what we're speaking of is not some mystical, ethereal thing that we don't experience. It's just that experience, as we come to think of experience, doesn't quite
Right.
say it.
Okay.
There
that's
isn't really a
helpful.
word I know that quite
Okay,
says
good.
it.
That makes sense to me then. Well, and all I really want to say, and I can feel a lot of sensations, is a deep, deep thank you.
Likewise. Likewise.
I realize now, I used to have friends to say to me when I was younger, what is it you're looking for? I was like, I don't know what I'm looking for.
That's right.
I don't know. And to put all that energy of 46 years, to be able to put that energy into the looking, at least it can go somewhere that feels like it's
That's right.
useful.
That's right. That's like, thank you.
Thank you.
That's exactly what I love to hear. I'm very, very pleased.
Thanks.
And it's that that has brought me to the point where I can speak directly about how this work it utilizes exactly the same stupidity as all of our other work has throughout all of our lives, trying to find an escape or a way out or a heavenly experience or something. It's exactly that same brute sense that there's something wrong and something has to be done about it and something has to be found. But now it's directed in the only direction that can possibly produce results. And you can see that too. And it's like we're talking about the actual looking tends to fade because of when you make the movement to do so, what happens is you just recognize the fact that you're always here, as you know all the time anyway. And that's entirely consistent also with the teachings. That's exactly consistent with the teachings, except seen from here, it's seen to be as it is, and not covered up with all kinds of mystical, magical, true self and emptiness and all of that stuff, right? Ramana spoke of it as, he spoke of it because he, of course, was well versed. He spent a long time reading every spiritual teaching that was available to him while he was in Tiruvannamalai, trying to see what it was that had actually happened to him. And so that his expression, whereas my expression comes from the streets of New Jersey and the years of reading in a prison cell and so forth. My capacity for expression comes from that. Ramana's capacity for expression comes from his spiritual understanding that he came to not seeking anything, but seeing it as it actually was. So he talks in terms of karma and prarabdha and things of that nature, of intentional action and all of that. And he says that this action, this movement, this process of moving attention to the actual reality of your nature is actually kind of the final action that's taken. And that it's like taking a stick and stirring the fire of misery and suffering, and the stick will itself be burned up in the fire. Now, that's a very fanciful and romantic way of speaking about it, but it's exactly what I have seen and we have talked about here, which is that the action itself, the deliberate act of bringing attention to the feeling of you, that deliberate act, eventually the act itself, which is the searching act, eventually dissolves in the accomplishment of its purpose. And then what is naturally the case is self-evident and needs no further, work to stabilize it or anything of the kind. When the act of the search disappears, the search is over. Until the search is over, until it bears fruit, it will continue. And the possibility is to deliberately move it in the right direction. And when you can. When you can't, you can't. When it just takes off on its own and starts looking for states or understandings or answers or whatever, there's nothing you can do about that. Really, you can't help yourself. Truly. But when you can, you can. And that's when you deliberately do what you have been doing, and the time will come when that whole business of searching just vanishes, just gone. Anybody else? Peter.
That's right.
It's a pleasure to see you.
Thank you for remembering my name.
And yet, I remember names of people I've been with for a long time. I remember their names.
I just came up to say thank you. I just find this wonderfully affirming, and I can share some experiences of how it works, and that's kind of how I feel.
You can share some experiences or not. It's entirely up to you.
Well, when I feel resistant, when I feel angry or fearful, it's sort of the same thing. That what I experience is the time time it takes to look at myself is getting shorter.
Yes, right.
I still resist. I still get angry.
Yes. That's nothing you can do about that.
But the time between starting to look and then looking and having it sort of vaporize, I don't know, is faster.
That's to be expected.
And I've also experienced in talking to somebody who's very angry that I can let it go and respond from I don't know where.
Right.
And it's clean. So
and it just doesn't affect you. Right.
No.
It's just, it's amazing. It's very difficult.
Hard. I find it hard.
Yeah.
But I'm free when I'm done.
Yeah. Right. It's, and you'll see that more and more. My experience is that when what I imagine to be negative behaviors and behavioral habits and so forth of thought arise in me, they don't even bother me. I mean, I barely even recognize their presence. And there are many things that I know. You know, I know that I used to feel this way. I know that I used to feel certain ways about certain characteristics and certain things that happened, and it just doesn't happen anymore. And it's no big deal. The most amazing thing about this, and I've said it before, I'm going to repeat it because it's extremely amazing, and that is not even the vanishing of misery is a big deal. It's not like, oh my God, thank you, Jesus. It's just not a big deal.
Well, thank you.
Oh, you're very
I'll say
welcome,
more
Peter.
later.
I'm very happy to hear from you.
Thank you. Thank
Is
you
it
so
cold
much.
up there?
It's warm here.
Must be cold there then. Thank you, Peter. Anybody else? Okay, Ed.
What's happened, I don't know, a few times, like in the last week or two, is I'll wake up early, quote, wake up, it seems inappropriate, early in the morning, I mean, I don't know, 3 or something, and there's just, it's like awareness of awareness,
Yeah.
and there's, I read Nisargadatta, so that's sort of a framework for me. I know he talks about consciousness being dualistic, and it seems to me, well, this is prior to consciousness. And there's a blissfulness, and it's never happened to me before, but this has happened, and it seems auspicious. One morning, I kind of had a thought, well, maybe I want to move my spine, and I don't have to, but I might, and I did. And then it seemed like there was just seeing, without what they talk about, but the seer seeing and the seeing are just one. And it seemed like, oh, well, maybe it's just seeing. And sometimes I'll say, well, well, there is consciousness, and there is existence, and there's bliss, and that's me. That's Sat Chit Ananda. But when you talk about just once, sort of, kind of seeing yourself, that has happened recently too, where they're just sort of like, oh, and just now I was thinking, I did the Vichara, the Atma Vichara, classically once or twice, a couple of years ago. It was, who am I? And then I had this, I am no thing, and there were corollary things to that, and that was great. It didn't really seem to change my life, but it was a great experience. But just now, as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking maybe a vichara I might do is now. I could say during the day, now is I aware as I. You tell me if I'm yes or wrong in this, or your suggestion. Is I aware as I? And my inclination would be no, in the sense that I'm not in touch with my true nature, true self, or me. But one of these times, if I say now, is I aware as I, then I might be, and I would know that. Is that?
Way too complicated. Really, it is way too complicated. And it is true that upon awakening in the morning, before the rush of the baggage of memory and what you are and what you've been and what you're doing and what's going to happen today and so forth, before that kind of rushes in and fills the space, in that brief moment, you are naked and exposed to yourself. And it's possible to deliberately look at you, but not at Satchidananda, and not at the I that is now, or not at any of that, just at you. It's far too complicated. This is the This is the burden of spiritual understanding. It's just you.
With to kind of, I mean, I know there's clarity. You're like waking up at whatever 6 or 7 in the morning, but
Right.
what's happening? I mean, it's not like I'm, you know, I find myself awake. You know, it's not like I'm going. Oh, now I'm going to. I mean, it's like before the I am,
Yeah,
or the
right.
thought I am. Anyway,
Right.
it's just like there's awareness,
That's-
and it's blissful,
that's-
and it's before
That's right,
consciousness.
except that it's not awareness, it's you.
It's me.
And this is a critical element of this. And it's natural to displace that into the concepts that have been so useful and important to us. It really is. But it simply is not necessary. It's just you. And if in that brief moment, it's very brief, if you see that it's you, just see, just look, and see that it's you, which may already be the case. But then that rush of explanation and commentary and discourse and so forth on what you are and what your relationship is to things, what your relationship is to nothing and all of that is just old stuff. It is of no consequence. It can't hurt you and it can't help you. But it is not you. I mean, in one sense, everything is you. But in the sense of this work, it is not you. It is just the patterns of behavior and the strategies and tactics that have been or pretended to be or seemed to be effective over time in distancing yourself and displacing anxiety and concern over what's going on within you. Oh, that's what Nisargadatta talks about. That's awareness of awareness. But it's not, it's you.
And I can get into pride about it, you know, ego or
Yeah,
spiritual
but
pride.
but that's okay too. It can't hurt you.
Well, hearing you say this, maybe it will be helpful to me. But I'm telling you, it's so automatic. You
I
know,
know.
it's not like
I know. And what I'm telling you is that if in that moment you recognize, just for that fraction of a second, you recognize that what you're seeing is you. Not you because you're not this and not that, but just you. Then what comes after, the inflation and the abstraction and all of that, is beside the point. It won't do you any harm. It's that fraction of a second when you are certainly face to face with the reality of your nature to see that it is you. And then whatever comes after that, it's beside the point. It's not something you have to stop, is what I'm telling you. It's not causing any problem. There's no problem that comes from the arising of all this commentary and discourse. As long as you notice in that fraction of a second that this is me. Just that. That's simple.
I get angry with, or whatever, the self-reflection sometimes. Sometimes I'm sort of abiding, and then there's sort of, you know, an analysis of that, or it's almost like, go away, you know, so I just,
Yeah.
and then there's also a little bit of fear about, you know, just letting go of, you know, the self-concept.
Right.
So,
What you
I'll
been
wrap
important.
it up with one other thing that I thought was, sometimes I'll walk out in the morning and it's just flowing and beautiful, and I'll ask myself, why do I screw this up, you know, thinking and so on, or whatever. But I walked out the other day, and somebody was walking down the street, and I just felt this sort of spontaneous, positive fellow feeling. I'll call it love, maybe. You know, somebody I didn't know, somebody I didn't want anything from, and I'm not used to that experience either.
Well, that may be a confirmation that is in that moment, you know that it's you. You see, the effect of this sometimes takes quite a long time to express, and like it's natural for you to think such things as, oh, I feel so good, and why should I ruin it with thinking? But that itself is just one more kind of mechanical algorithm that protects you or makes you safe or satisfies you or keeps you from being harmed by being tricked or something like that. None of that is anything that needs anything done about. The fact that your thoughts ruin the experience of the sweet flowing day and stuff, none of that doesn't need anything done about. The day will come when that just won't happen anymore. And there's nothing you can do to make that day occur, except what you're doing, which is this fraction of a second of the certain recognition that what you're seeing, that has no qualities, is you. That's it. The rest of it is as it is, and the outcome is certain. Those traits and behaviors and relationships that are negative and that seem harmful to you, they will just not show up anymore. And those traits and behaviors that are positive and that are conducive to the full enjoyment of human life, they thrive.
Well, I don't know how relevant it is, but I'd heard on one spiritual newsletter, there was a quote supposedly from Lao Tzu that, to the mind that is still, the universe surrenders. And I like that, and I've been working, I walked up to the store, and it occurred to me that often human contact to me seems like fencing with rapiers. And then now, it's probably what I'm creating, I guess, but I could kind of see, the rapiers, but it was like, I'll just keep mine in the scabbard, I don't need to engage, and it seemed very Aikido-like that this stuff is going on. I really feel an urge to do Tai Chi or something. I don't know.
Tai Chi is a good thing.
Yeah.
And the thing I think that you're experiencing is, I think that this is authentic. I think that there's the experience that you have in the morning when you wake up, that there is a moment when you are clear that it's you. And the reason I think that is because the things you begin to report are confirming of that. And like for example, when you start speaking about how this reminds you of Lao Tzu or Aikido or all of those things, it is to be expected that as time goes on, you will see from this side what all of that was trying to say. And when you see it from this side, you see how impotent it is from that side to be helpful, but how beautifully descriptive it is of how things seem.
There's one teacher goes on a lot about the prescriptive descriptive fallacy, that you can talk about it, but that's and to hear me talk about it, don't think it's going to happen that way for you or anything, and that what I'm talking about is at all giving you experience or is prescriptive to attain it or something.
But it's okay. Do what you're doing, and everything that is of no use will disappear. That's the case. It just disappears, and it's no big deal. The thing about Lao Tzu, and I have over time often seen a great resemblance between what it is that I speak of and the Tao. I see a great resemblance, but I also see a critical distinction, because the teaching of the Tao is all descriptive. It is about how our proper relationship to the unfolding of reality, our proper relationship. It is advice to us as to how our proper relationship should unfold to these things, to the way things unfold and so forth. And that's not very helpful, except as confirmation once you have achieved the proper relationship, which is soon to be the case with you if it's not already.
Thank you.
Okay? You're very welcome. Okay, I think we're done for this time. It's getting a little chilly in here. Huh? How did that happen? Who saw that coming? So, I guess I'll be seeing some of you tonight. And I'll see the rest of you tomorrow morning. As always, I am just overflowing with gratitude for this is a really wonderful group of people and really wonderful meetings that we have so far manifested between us. I'm very pleased with this. So thank you for your attention and your time and your willingness. I love you all. I'll see you tomorrow. Whoever I don't see tonight, I'll see you tomorrow.